Hi there. Today I'm bringing you an interview with the founder of one of the creative industry's favorite sources for inspiration and support, Creative Boom, out of the UK. Welcome to episode 4 of season 2 of Actual People, where we investigate the state of creativity abroad, home, and within ourselves. Take a listen. Welcome to Actual People, a podcast hosted by me, Chauncey Zalkin, dedicated to meaningful conversations about the evolving landscape of our lives and the power of our own creativity and imagination to make magic. I discovered Creative Boom when I lived on the other side of the pond and was, outside of my creative writing, immersed in all things design world, including having my own design showcase called What Women Make. Katy Cowan started Creative Boom in her late 20s. She's since built a global community of creatives, including a whole new generation of talent. And like all of us, Katy is changing and evolving. We talk about that evolution, compare notes, and of course, get personal.
Hello.
Hi there.
How are you doing?
Good.
Nice to see you. I've just released myself out there actually, which is quite scary. I've been dancing on Instagram today, which is just bonkers.
You've been dancing on Instagram?
Yes, and
Oh,
TikTok.
that is a great place to start. Yesterday, I thought, if I want to get more people to look at my podcast, I need to go on TikTok, and I really don't want to. And I think of what you do as being behind the scenes writing and editing and not dancing on TikTok. So, and
I've
then
completely thrown you off now.
you're just putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, you know what? Fuck it. I have to get on TikTok because this is going to take too long with me and this long form stuff and grow very slowly, one person at a time. I really need to bite the bullet and get on TikTok, but I don't know how to approach it because it's not really me.
No, I would have agreed with you last year and maybe 2 months ago, but I've been building myself up because it's a really scary thing to do.
I'm curious about what your approach is, and as another creative person and a writer and an editor, how are you approaching TikTok?
So, okay, good question. I started Creative Boom about 15 years ago when Twitter was still really new, Facebook, all these kind of new social platforms. And I was young, I was, in my late 20s, had lots of energy, lots of ideas. And I don't know, I just kind of built a really good community, built Creative Boom through Twitter. I mean, Twitter was just amazing back in the day. You could just very quickly build an audience, which was gold for small independent blogs. I suppose it was a blog at the time, like mine, because it put us on a level playing field with the big publications of the time, who were struggling, by the way, because all of a sudden all the advertising spend was going to Facebook and Google. It was like 80% of advertising spend in the UK today is now spent with those two platforms alone. So it's been a really tough 15 years for anybody who works in media, but I've somehow managed to build this thing into a magazine, online magazine, and a podcast for the creative community, creative professionals, artists and designers. A lot of blood, sweat and tears, a lot of hard work, but I couldn't have done it without social media. That was just absolutely amazing back in the day. Now, for the last few years, since the pandemic, obviously everything's gone to video, hasn't it? And short form content. And as somebody who's now sort of, in their late 40s, just turned, I was very, very reluctant to embrace video because I would just sort of very cynically say to friends in, at dinner parties or whatever, oh God, that makes me sound pretentious. I'm at that age, we do dinner parties, we don't stay out past a certain time. But we kind of we're like, oh, I'm not dancing on TikTok. So it was like a joke in our circle of friends, and I've got lots of creative friends and we all sort of work in similar kind of fields. Not everybody, actually. I just always joked, I am not dancing at all. I'm too old. I've had my day. It's just not happening. So one of my friends bet me, I bet you're on TikTok dancing before the end of 2024. And I said, no way, that's not happening. And then I hurt my back really badly after Christmas couldn't get off the floor very much for about 4 months. And it was just life changing, you know?
You were going to be my first guest. You were the first person when I thought of doing the podcast that I spoke to. Remember, I asked you something about the name. I'm trying to think of a name, and you gave me some ideas. You were the first person that I had booked, and then you hurt yourself.
It was just so bad. I didn't know what was going on. I've never experienced nerve pain before. And if anybody's listening to this and has, then they will sympathize, because it is the most horrendous pain. From January to April, I was pretty much wiped out. During that time, I recorded a whole podcast season for Creative Boom. I still don't know how, because I couldn't sit. I still can't sit on the sofa now. Thankfully, I've got a lovely, lovely new chair, which allows me to sit and function and work at my desk. But up until 2 months ago, I couldn't stand or sit at my desk for more than half an hour at a time. Before that, it was 25 minutes, 20 minutes, and so on and so forth. Back in April, I could do 2 minutes at the desk, and then I had to lie on the floor again.
Thanksgiving is a big deal, even though, it's a very contentious holiday here. I still really like it because it's dinner with people. And I was cooking the Thanksgiving turkey and I threw my back out that morning. And I had to rely on my not very awesome boyfriend at the time to take over for me, which he was not happy about. But I couldn't, I was in this position the whole day. And I have scoliosis. So I know back pain, but not what you're describing.
I am getting better. I was able to start driving again 2 months ago, and I've just started swimming, which is just amazing. And I was wearing my swimming goggles, and I actually had a little cry in the pool, and nobody noticed because, why would you? I was wearing these like massive geeky goggles. And I was just like, oh, this is so nice. It has been so debilitating. My husband would go out for food shopping, and as soon as he went, I would crawl to the window and pine. As soon as he'd gone, I'd just like primal scream into the floor. Why me? Because it just takes your life away. It has been the worst experience, but also the best experience. I know that sounds ridiculous because it's been very painful and it has really stripped me of my freedoms. It was awful. But you spend so much time staring at the ceiling. You become so grateful and so humbled, if that makes sense. I think anybody that goes through something like this will probably feel the same.
I'm reading a book called I Am Lucy Barton. She wrote Olive Kitteridge, the author. The story is the perspective of her in a hospital bed in New York, watching life happen down below her.
You never think that being in your bedroom, lying on your bed and seeing people walking their dogs in the winter sunshine will make you burst out crying. I would go to the mirror in the bathroom to get some tissue and I would see my bloated face and I would just burst out crying again. I was like, oh God. So I was doing a lot of wallowing in self-pity for those first months.
My last episode is after that Lana Del Rey song, Summertime Sadness of the Single Mom. I went on this solo trip. There was a lot of feelings of sadness in it, and I felt a little bit guilty because I was in New Zealand and it was amazing, but I felt a weird sadness and I kind of explore that. And I think that it's just been a hard time for a lot of people, but not everyone, I guess. But a lot of people I speak to because of the economy and all these limitations that have been put on our creativity and just jobs, just the slowness of life. I don't know if this is something that resonates with you, but like everything's so tough. But in the creative industries, when something happens to you personally, it's very humbling because you are forced to stop and think about what your next move is and what you really care about.
Yeah, definitely. It does make you rethink everything. It's been tough, but I'm proud. I'm proud to have discovered what I'm made of. I knew I was strong, but I have really discovered my tenacity and my determination this year because I've not just been doing that. I've been doing Pilates, swimming, physio every single day. I've been doing something every day to build up strength, build up the core, and just get myself back to health as soon as possible.
Wow. Well, that sounds like a real victory. I have been swimming my whole life, but I wasn't a great breather in the crawl. It would just like get water in my nose. Like I just didn't do it right. And this summer, after an entire lifetime, I suddenly figured it out and got my breathing right with turning my head. Such a small thing, but it was a huge breakthrough in my life. It's these little personal victories that sometimes people don't see that really shift you into another evolution of your personal evolution. So
Yeah.
get me to the point of where you decided to go on TikTok and dance.
So I don't know about you, but we're women, right? And we try and fit in, we try and please, we try to be good little girls. The stuff we're brought up with, it's ingrained in our culture. We try not to stand out or upset anybody, but I have always been a bit of a character and I've always squashed it a little bit, kept it a little bit at distance just because I'd prefer to fit in than ruffle any feathers or come across as too annoying or bolshy or
You want to be
unconfident
liked. If
to
someone
you.
doesn't like me, I don't feel good. I don't like it.
I don't believe anyone who says they don't care if people like them.
I think it's pretty
Yeah,
natural.
it's
Um,
human nature. We all want to be
yeah,
liked, but the key is I think I've spent most of my life trying to sort of fit in, trying to please everyone. And actually I've got to the point where it's not that have become suddenly very arrogant when I say I just don't care. It's more that I think I'm bloody, am I allowed to swear? I think I'm bloody wonderful. I do. I
you're so
think I'm
you're
great. I'm a
charming.
great friend. I'm a great part of the family. I work hard.
You're also
I
very
don't even,
creative, and you started this great community of creatives, and I really admire that. That's a huge accomplishment. But then you're a public figure in a way. People see what you're doing. It's easier to curate other people and not focus on your own spark, right?
yeah, exactly. So I've always kind of taken a bit of a back seat because I just didn't think Creative Boom was about me. It's more about the people that we support. And it's still very much that. But the key was that I put my personality out there. I chatted with people, I lifted people up, and Twitter was great for that. And now, in recent kind of years, that's kind of dropped off. The platform's changed, algorithms changed. Some people have left. I'm still on there. I've always liked the platform, but it has changed. And everything's sort of moved to video and short form, and I'm there sort of, millennial going, oh God, I mean, I haven't got any energy to go on a new sort of social media platform. I've been doing this for 20 years. I just kind of want to keep nice and sort of in the background and kind of
Me too.
share too much of myself and remain private and all the rest of it. So how I've gone from being all that to dancing on TikTok. Only just released the video, so God knows what the
This is the
reaction
first
is.
one. You're talking to me right after you did your first.
Well, they're not all about dancing. Some of them are just quite professional and me sort of talking to camera and talking
Yeah.
about various things. But the whole context of this latest one today is that I've got a new podcast season coming up end of September.
Hmm.
And I wanted to choose a new soundtrack. I felt like our backing track was a little bit old fashioned. We kind of needed something a bit more fresh and modern. So why not get the community to help out, do something really fun, choose from 5 different tracks with me dancing in the background to each one.
Nice.
Yeah. I sent it to my family first and a couple of my best
Fun.
friends. I was like, should I? Should I? This is just, and they're like, oh,
You
it's so
have to.
wonderful. It's
Once
so
you,
funny.
even if you thought of it, that means it's already, that's it. You got to do it. Me starting my own podcast is the same thing. It's trying to just put yourself out there without so many
Hats.
filters. And that's why I find TikTok and Instagram so exhausting because I don't have anything brilliant to say every single day. It takes me a while to process some new insight into a
Yeah.
essay. So I find that to be difficult. Like, what am I going to say on TikTok every day? Like, I don't understand. So, yeah, what's your approach to this to short form?
Mhm. Well, I have very similar kind of experience to you because I started my career in broadcast journalism. So I was always really safe behind a script. So a script was my safety net. So when I started my podcast in 2020, the intro bit was the hardest bit. The actual conversations I found really fun because that came naturally to me, conversations with people. That was my comfort zone. But doing the intros, I was always like, this isn't about me. There's no need for me to bring my personality and my spark here, even though I would be a bit quirky and fun during the actual conversations. In the intro, I would be like, very kind of professional, very journalist, just get the facts across, not dilly-dally. Because I'd heard other podcast shows where the host would sort of go off on a ramble for about 20 minutes about themselves. And I was, that might suit them, but I don't know if that's right for the Creative Boom audience. I think I need to just remember it's not about me. So I've always been, it's not about me, it's not about me. But then when I go out, the feedback is Creative Boom is Katy Cowan.
Yeah.
So there's part of that, but I think when I started to feel better, I I suddenly had all this energy and all these ideas, and I was like, right, I was so determined. Right, I'm going to get all of my, paper on the table. I'm going to scribble, draw things, get loads of ideas. I'm going to review everything, our brand message, our brand values, our brand mission, our audience. I'm going to do a survey. I'm going to do did all this. So fun, so great, and came to the conclusion that um, just that I started Creative Boom 15 years ago because I looked around at the media that were representing the creative industries at the time, and it was all very serious and very professional, quite rightly. And there's a place for it. There's a huge place for it. Those platforms are fantastic. But what about like something that felt a bit more kind of, I don't know, down to earth and welcoming, more of a kind of community feel? So that's why I started Creative Boom. And over the years, we've built it and built it and built it, and occasionally creeped towards that kind of serious professional angle because we want to be taken seriously and we want to have that credibility. But occasionally we've forgotten that kind of core brand value. The eyes icon on the site, the language that we use, the way we write articles, the podcast, it's all there. It always was there. But it was a case of just sitting down and going, okay, who are we? What are we about? And how do we go forward with this?
And that's really hard to do for yourself, for your own
It's
brand.
so hard.
This
It's
is what I
so
do for
hard.
other brands. I go
Mm,
in and
same.
it's much
It's
easier.
so easy to like work out where other people can do better. But when it comes to your own baby, it's really tough, and I'm not ashamed to admit that. It's really tough. So one of the things that came out of it is that actually I'm a creative just like my audience. So that's where the magic is. It's having that empathy, and that's where the bridge and the connection will be made. Hey, I'm
So you're just
creative
like letting go a little bit of
just like
your
you.
boundaries, right? Be more vulnerable. I mean, that's really what it
Be
is.
more
Like,
vulnerable, be more kind of honest, just put myself out
yeah.
there, say, look, hey, Creative Boom, we're a small independent business. There's me and a little remote team, and we're all very passionate about what we do. And, hey, we're not a massive publishing company, and it's just okay to be honest about that. Just remember our
Well, let's face
roots.
it, there's been quite a failure in the world of journalism to connect with people, which has caused a lot of big problems and move people into extremist positions. Even though there should be a lot of transparency, there seems to be more distance, more alienation, less clarity, and people, I think, desperately need these communities. If I may just step in here for a second, I just wanted to clarify, listening to the interview, that I do not think it's the fault of journalism and journalists, but the other way around, that it's the fault of big tech and media trying to keep up with big tech for manipulating people with algorithms that privilege clicks and so-called engagement, really just to get strong emotional reactions rather than communicate factual information and rather than content that benefits people. So, just to be clear, now back to the interview. That's why all these membership groups have cropped up. People are desperate to connect with other people. I don't know if it's completely working. I've been in a couple. It's okay, but I want to get in front of people physically. So one way is just having a podcast is like a way to just talk to people and to be honest about the fact that at this juncture, I think we're all wondering what the hell is going on and what is going to happen next. Life has become very difficult. And anytime that life is difficult, that's where you grow the most, really. Not when things are just coasting along and you don't have to look at anything.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can become too safe, can't you? I mean, I've got the luxury of running my own platform. I don't have shareholders or bosses above me saying, you can't do that, you can't experiment with this. I can do whatever I want. And it's good to remember that. I can take risks. If it doesn't work, I do something else. Lost a bit of that over the years, but then lying on the floor gives you clarity, and you say, okay, well, this is a bit of a wake up call. If this is how precious life is, then why am I so afraid of going into this other thing? Like, why can't I get back some of that 27-year-old spirit where I was like, I'm going to just do a blog and I'm going to call it Creative Boom and it'll be great, not giving a holy flying sausage what anybody thought at the time. Even though back then, you'd suggest it to people and they'd be like, oh, that will never work. But I know I'm going to do it anyway. Screw it. And over the years, the fear kind of sinks in a bit more and a bit more and a bit more, especially when you've got such a big audience now. You don't want to put off one audience and not attract the other. Do you know what I mean? It's very frightening putting your stick in the sand, because once you put your stick in your sand and say, this is who we are, these are the people that we look after, and this is what we're about, if that includes dancing on TikTok, then some people are not going to like it. And it's just having the bravery to say, that's okay. We're not for you. Go over there. There are plenty of other wonderful things over there, shiny things. And then suddenly the beauty is all those people over there who were always your audience and some hadn't found you yet, suddenly find you. And then you've got your amazing niche, your growing niche. So I think in difficult times like this, no matter what industry or career you're in, it's important to take a step back and see how you can differentiate yourself and not be afraid to just really lean into what makes you special, what makes you different to everybody else.
I'm in the middle of that. I decided, because I'm a single mom, that I would get these jobs leading marketing for these small tech companies. And some of the people I worked with were lovely people, but I absolutely hated it. And it's not me at all. And then I got laid off and I just was trying to get another one of those kinds of jobs. And then I said, you know what? I really don't even want, I don't want to do that. I never wanted to do it. And I'm not getting it and I don't want it. And I did the math on it and I thought, I'm a writer. And I'm a content creator, not in the sense of short form, but I'm a writer, I'm a storyteller, and that's what I have to do. So it's about taking a pay cut or eliminating a bigger pool of opportunities potentially.
Yeah.
But eventually you have to start saying, I can do this, but I don't want to do it. So I have to say no to it and just focus on the thing that you love, that you're great at, and that's it. And it is a huge financial risk. People talk so much about do what you're passionate about, do what you love, and don't let anyone stop you. But the truth is we have to pay bills. So I've always found that balance to be torturous. How do you stay on your path? That's my constant dilemma, is staying true to what I care about, especially as time, you're getting older. You don't have all the time in the world to be who you really are. And at a certain point, you have to bite the bullet.
I've really kind
Yeah.
of found myself, if I'm honest, this year. And
Yeah. I can hear
feels,
that.
it feels good.
Yeah. Fuck it. Don't feel guilt.
No,
You obviously have a very
let
strong
that
moral
go.
compass.
Yeah,
You're not going to do anything terrible. You have that guide you
exactly.
and your sense of fun.
I'm still not getting a full night's sleep. So who
You
cares?
look beautiful.
Thank you. So do you. I just don't want to put any injections in my face, you know?
I've never done anything, but I'm thinking about it.
Hey, as soon as this goes, I'm going to get somebody to like basically staple
No, that's
this
it. This is the
jawline to the
thing.
back of my head.
Yeah. It's called a deep plane facelift.
Oh, oh, is
Yeah,
it?
and I think I'm like, this is what I need. This
Wow.
is what I need. Yeah. I
Come
mean, it's
on,
funny.
come
It's like
on.
teetering on that edge of like, I have done nothing. I've never done Botox, nothing.
You look great.
I'm 51.
You look great.
Thank you. How old did you say you were?
I'm
Yeah.
46.
Oh, okay. You said you were in your late 40s. That's what you said. Oh my
I just
God. 1 year
I
after
prepare
45.
I prepare myself. I prepare myself. I'm like, you're in the late 40s now. You go past 45, you're in your late
You're in
40s.
your mid 40s,
Aren't
objectively
aren't
speaking.
you proud though? Aren't you proud to have reached that age? I mean, we're alive. It's great.
I mean, the politically correct thing is to say yes, but no, I don't
You
enjoy
want to be
it.
young. You want to be young
No, I
again.
don't want to be young. I think I want to be in my 40s.
Mm.
I think that was good. And maybe it is good now, but I don't like yeah. In some ways, it asks me on different days how I feel about it, but
You just gotta
it's hard.
you just gotta buy really expensive clothes, get your hair done really expensively.
You know what I
That's
find,
what I'm doing.
honestly? I feel like when I wear no makeup, I look best. No
Mm.
makeup.
Yeah.
I'm wearing makeup right now, but when I go out and I have no makeup, I feel like I look younger.
Yeah, you need light foundation and you need to do like a base of like serum, day cream, SPF 50, and then you put your very light foundation on, just very, very light, and then lots of kind of glowy kind of highlighter stuff lots of cream blushes, that kind of thing, and
Yeah.
just very, very nice
Nothing
creamy
powdery.
eyeshadows. Nothing powdery. You don't want to have gels eventually.
Yes, my friend says this has to be organized. This part of the face, she's very funny. I have an episode called Hot Menopause Summer, and
Right.
she's one of my close friends, and she's my third guest, and she's hilarious. She's very funny. She's like, this has to be organized.
That
We,
as well. You could do these like exercises.
yeah, the roller
Like this one.
thing, and
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
wish I didn't care. My grandmother died at 104 years old, and she never
Wow.
had anything done except dyeing her hair black, and it came down to her butt almost. And she
Wow.
wore red lipstick like you're wearing, and dark
Mm-hmm.
hair, and she was stunning. And all the creases, I mean, she was just beautiful. She had parties and was glamorous and dressed in glamorous clothes.
And I bet she always looked gorgeous.
She was gorgeous. As you get older, we just need to reorient ourselves towards embracing that as beautiful. It's put on us by culture. What is
Of course it
beautiful?
is. Advertising,
Just like being
marketing.
extra nice and people pleasing is a construct. My last podcast, I talk about Kamala Harris and the debates. She just kicked ass because she was not apologetic. She was not fawning. She was not people pleasing. She just tore him a new one, and it was awesome. She's just really sharp. Anyway, what I was going to ask you about was I used to live in Paris and I lived in Barcelona. I lived
Oh,
over there before I had kids, and I would cover Salon de Mobile. I wrote for a few different design publications in London. I did an event at the London Design Festival, in Designer's Block, called What Women Make. And I love the London Design Festival, and I love Salon de Mobile, and Barcelona had its own festival. I can't remember what it's called. I love all that stuff. And then I came
yeah.
back to the States. My ex-husband and I started a brand documentary company, and it started out that we were going to do it about design companies, the handmade and that kind of thing. We did a little atelier story in Paris, and there just wasn't enough of them. And there just wasn't
Mm.
enough money in it. We did one for From the Source, which took reclaimed Indonesian hardwoods and made stuff. And then we did another one for a designer, Daniel Moyer, who did these beautiful handmade tables. And in fact, I have one downstairs. But we didn't do a lot of them. This wasn't a whole industry to do them about. We moved on to organic food and agriculture and did Beyond Meat and all this other stuff. But I was a little bit crestfallen when I came back and realized I can't make a whole business out of working in the design industry.
Yeah.
And it's been a long time now. It's been 14 years. But I went to London last summer, and I still feel like there's so much energy around aesthetics and making of beautiful things. I don't know if you feel the same way or have noticed this, but I've long thought in the United States, even in New York, creativity, when people say creative, they mean advertising.
Mm.
That is what it's centered around. It seems to matter more, especially in London, but all over Europe. Why do you think that that is the case? Thinking about the economy and how squeezed it is, do you feel like it's still the case that there is enough room for creatives to build careers in the UK?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it depends what field you're talking about. I mean, if we're talking about physical things, I think it's very much alive and well. During the early days of Creative Boom and before that, I was working in PR and I was in that same world as you were, but I was on it from the PR side. So I was representing some brands and meeting lots of journalists and running around these amazing events and festivals in London and whatnot. So I got a really nice look into that world. And I think it's definitely not been easy for a lot of creatives over the years, but the ones that have been savvy in the last decade have realized that there's a lot of commercial opportunity to be had in the A&D sector. So, for instance, if you are a glass artist, you might do an installation for an architectural firm for one of their clients. It has become very, very popular for artists to be commissioned to create something bespoke for an architectural project or an interior design project. I think artists have become more important actually in the last decade. They've become more valuable. They're recognized more for what they can bring. I think the public as well have become more interested in art and design. Your average Joe wouldn't have really known much about graphic design 20 years ago. I think they're a bit more savvy about it now. So yeah, art and crafts and that kind of thing. I think they're having a real moment, actually. I'm very good friends with somebody who runs a new materials library in Manchester, which is in the north of England, and they've just opened their second location
Are
in.
you from Manchester?
I'm kind of from that area, yeah.
I
I'm
hear
from
the
a
accent. My ex-husband's from Harrogate.
right.
He doesn't have the accent, but I do know it.
Yeah, I have a northern accent. It's probably a mix of Stoke and Manchester and a little bit of Midlands. We have a lot of accents here. We're a strange little country, really. But yeah, so he's just opened up a place in Glasgow as well, and it's for architects and interior designers to go in and just browse materials and furniture all for their projects. And gosh, it's booming. It's booming. They're doing so well, but art plays a massive part in it.
What's the name of the business?
Material source. And the guy behind it that I'm talking about is Darren Clanford. Such a great guy, very creative, worked with him for years. And so, yeah, I think there is a lot of opportunity. It's just a case of being savvy. You have to be good, as always, and knowing how to play the industry and get in at the right kind of networks. And you can really make a name for yourself.
My desk, it's decoupaged with little things that I like. And one of it is a postcard by a designer named Abigail Borg, who, do you know who she is? Does that sound
No,
familiar?
no.
She is a surface designer and I've always loved her stuff. And she's done some partnerships with some big companies. I don't know what she's doing lately, but it's a little bit like Liberty prints or William Morris prints, but very uniquely her own and floral and just exactly what I like. She does wallpaper and everything else, but you don't find that here the way you do in London. What you're saying, this material, it just doesn't happen here. I don't know why. Do you speak to a lot of United States creatives?
We definitely cover some crafts and art, but we're more focused on visual communications like graphic design,
Mm.
illustration, photography, animation. And yeah, we're in touch with quite a few agencies and studios and designers and independents over there. That's the thing I can't get my head around is just such a huge community. We've got a massive audience in India now as well, and China is growing and Australia. I've been over to the States on behalf of Creative Beam a couple of times in the last 10 years. It's just brilliant to be able to get a vibe of what the different sort of creative communities are doing in the various different cities. LA is so different to New York. New York feels like a really small village. It's really, really weird. I was very surprised at how friendly New York was. You know, not
Yeah,
that I
it
thought
is.
not that I thought it was going to be not. I thought that because London is you don't look at anybody on the tube, you know, you keep your head down, you don't look at anybody. It's a massive faux pas. A northern girl, you know, learnt the hard way in her 20s, that being me, you know, randomly talking to strangers and getting the etiquette completely wrong. And then you become hardened and you know how to play it in London. But yeah, New
Well, it
York is,
used to be like that in New York, but I think New Yorkers are really friendly, actually.
yeah,
But I think
yeah,
Londoners are really friendly too. But
yeah, they are. They are. They're good eggs. I think it's just a busy city, so people try and sort of keep focused and keep
I
moving.
think it's the attitude with which you talk to people, or
Mm.
if you're a city person, city people have a radar. Everybody's wary of other people
Oh
everywhere
yeah,
you
you
go
have
anyway.
to be. You need your wits about you. And I lived in the city for 12 years and I've just moved out coming up to a year ago. I'm living in a small market town now out in Cheshire, and it is just so ridiculously friendly. When I first got here, I was walking around and people would just say hello to you. In the supermarket, people would come up to you and say, "Hiya, love, can you just pass me those peas on that top shelf?" Well, they don't really speak like that round here, but you get the idea. And I remember I did this, I got these frozen peas for this old lady who stood and had a chat with me for a bit. And I realized I'd been in the city for far too long and that actually I probably wasn't a city girl because I then burst out crying and literally cried next to the frozen aisle section because I just realized that I had found home, you know,
Oh,
and I
that's
hadn't really
awesome.
felt at home for ages.
How far is that from London?
It's kind of up north in the northwest. I'd say it's about 200 miles. I have got a train station nearby. My family
Mm.
are in the next town. I
Oh,
didn't really want to go back to my hometown because, you know, I used to work behind the bar and I know too
Yeah.
many people. I know the dark side of where I grew up. So I'm like, oh no, I just don't want to bump into. It's a
I
terrible
do
thing,
want to
isn't it?
ask you about the cheese because I grew up, my mother had an English boyfriend. We would have Cheshire cheese with
Yeah,
Branston pickle on it. And I cannot find that cheese anywhere. And it's like
Cheshire
the
cheese.
best, do you know what it is?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not my
Yes.
favorite. It's not my favorite,
Oh,
but it
no.
is nice. It's really
It's
nice with Branston pickle, toasted
yeah.
sandwich under the grill.
Yes.
Perfect.
So
Yeah,
I
I
grew
get
up
it.
eating. It's got it's like cheddar, but it's a little crumblier, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
it is really
you
nice.
can't have it on its own. It's not something you can just, eat with a little bit of wine. It's something you have to have with
Is it because it's
spreads.
a little bit strong or something?
Yeah, it's got a bit of kind of after, yeah, it's quite
Yeah.
tangy, isn't it?
It needs the pickle to make it okay. But that I have strong childhood memories of that
Oh,
because of him. Yes. And he now lives in Portugal. And when I was in London, I had dinner with his daughter who lives in London
oh,
now. And she's half English, just like my kids are half English. So my kids
right.
are yeah, they're half English. But he
Okay.
lives in upstate New York,
Oh,
my
okay.
ex-husband. So, how do you feel like the creative industry has changed or evolved since the pandemic?
It's definitely changed us as creatives. We've become more resilient. I think it changed how we worked and it changed how we consumed content and how we networked. There's a real desire to do more stuff in real life. There's definitely a shift in social media and how we use these
Yeah,
tools and
talk about that.
platforms.
I do notice, and a lot of my peers have reached a fatigue with Instagram and just
Hmm.
with social media in general in my age group where they just can't handle it anymore. It doesn't
Yes.
have the same reward. You're getting all this little short form distracting content. When I first got on Instagram, it was just to look at all the major design blogs and museums
Yes.
and galleries and just have a visual stream. And it refused to give it to me. And I started seeing moms baking stuff and memes. And now I don't have it on my phone because it's a time suck for me. I feel like a lot of people have just burnt out and want to
Yes.
connect more meaningfully in smaller groups. How would a creative from scratch get their work out there or connect with people? What do you think is working now?
I agree with you on all of that. I feel the same. It's very exhausting, the whole thing. I think lots of people are feeling burnt out. I just go back to the traditional. Just get out there and meet people. It's the best way. It always has been. It always will be. Go to networking events, go to gallery launches, go to that thing with a friend, go to an art fair. Just be friendly and put yourself out there. The other thing I would do is work on your SEO, your website, your portfolio, try and get into sort of design blogs and magazines and go on a podcast because all those links pointing back to your website will give you a good lift.
Yeah.
But saying that, I don't know how much longer search engines are going to work in the way that they have done. And this is
Yeah.
the other thing that everybody's exhausted about. So much is changing. Technology is so fast at the moment. AI, obviously. So I feel like just going back to your original question, how is everyone feeling out there? I think a lot of people are feeling very overwhelmed. And so they're going back to basics. And that might mean going out in the green. There's a really nice group here. I think it's called Creative Walks. Somebody organizes a walk in the hills. It's a really lovely networking event where they just go out and they don't necessarily talk about work, but it's a great way for people to make friends and then build a little network.
Oh my God,
Um,
that's brilliant. I love
isn't
it.
it a great idea? And that's really, really nice. And then there's so many events in Manchester and Liverpool and Birmingham. There's a great design festival in Birmingham called Birmingham Design Festival. It's run by these really nice guys, and they have an amazing community there. And then there's one in Manchester, Fiona and John, they're amazing, and Malcolm. It's just you've got to find your tribe. A lot will come from that. You don't have to be dancing on TikTok. You don't have to be doing short form video. If you don't want to do that, just go back to basics, go and meet people.
I'm a ex-New Yorker and I live in Raleigh, North Carolina now.
Nice,
And
nice.
you also don't live in a city center.
Not
And
anymore.
it's so comfortable here. I have my little world and it's
Yeah,
beautiful and I have lots of green around me. I
gorgeous.
don't think I could handle going in and out of the subway all day anymore, and I
No,
have two young
too
children.
much.
I'd love to be able to just go hop on the train and go to like a big festival or a network. There it doesn't exist.
Difficult, yeah, because
Mm.
you've got a lot of distance over there.
How do people use your community? A chat or a message board?
No, that's a good question, actually. It's something that I've been pondering. It's hard to do, it's hard to manage. We have a newsletter, we have a podcast, we have an online magazine, and then the community is really all around of that. So we rely on the community through social channels. So it'll be X, Twitter, whatever you call it, Instagram, TikTok now. God, we're new on that. Only got 500 followers. That's nice, new territory again. LinkedIn is a great network. 120,000 people follow the page. And I can just sort of add something on there. It's always themes that I'm going through myself. Somebody might pop into your private chat and say, oh, I didn't realize you lived in Cheshire. Do you want to meet up for a walk in this forest? And we can chat about creativity and have a nice time. And I'm like, yeah, sure. But can you give me a couple of months because I'm getting better?
I love how you're so open. You exude this energy of welcoming. And I think that's so important. Not everybody is like that. And not everybody who runs a media platform is like that.
I actually kind of thought that was a bad thing for many years, but now I'm at that point where I realize that I have to fight to keep it, because it's so easy when you get older to feel the cynicism creeping in. You have to like fight it off, no
You're going to
way.
become stodgy with your cane, poking at people to get
Yeah,
out of your
like,
way.
and you realize you're getting frustrated.
Everybody is an idiot.
You bring yourself back to the kindness and
Yeah.
compassion that you have for yourself and others. You never know what hell other people are going through. So
Yeah.
just
Oh,
be
yes.
nice.
Yeah, I think about that a lot. And then you have more compassion for yourself too. Because really,
Absolutely.
when you're being hard on someone else, you're actually really being hard on yourself. That's what's happening. If you notice the days where you wake up and you feel like things aren't working out for you or you're feeling crappy, those are the days you're pretty nasty in your head about other people. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's really
Yeah.
just self-harm in a way. And also we have younger generations coming with different perspectives. And
Yeah.
in order to stay vibrant and young, you have to try to understand where they're coming from, which is not always easy. It's the lazy thing to do, to just be like, oh God, they're so naive and they don't know what they're talking about. But really, that's how you end up old and stodgy with your cane pushing people out of
This is
your
where
way.
this is where you end up dancing on TikTok, because you realize
Hmm.
people go where the eyes are, and the eyes at the moment are on these new platforms.
I can't
You
wait to
can,
go and
yeah.
see you dancing. When is it
Oh
coming out?
God.
Is it out yet?
It's out there. It's
Okay,
done.
awesome.
No
Yeah,
going
you're
back. But that's the thing, if you start thinking that way, you get stuck and you kind of stop innovating and moving forward. You've always got to challenge yourself and do things that make you uncomfortable. We're 15 years old now, Creative Boom. The audience that we're serving are younger and, could be my kind of,
daughters,
daughters and
sons.
sons. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm too young.
Too
What
young for
happened?
this.
But that's the thing. I have deliberately chosen not to have children. I'm a what did Trump call us?
A
But
childless
I
cat
haven't
lady.
childless cat, but I haven't got any cats, and I would not call myself childless because I think
See, I
that's
have children and cats, but I'm a single
right.
mom, so I'm
Yes.
also equally deplorable to Trump and his lovely running mate, Jeffrey Dahmer Vance, I call him, JD Vance, because yes, I'm also useless because I don't have a husband. That makes me a low quality human being too. I'm not a trad wife serving a man his dinner, so
Well,
not fully useful in society, apparently, I don't think. Oh
it's a
well.
funny thing. It's a funny thing. I understand that. I try and have an understanding if somebody's got a problem with me deciding not to have children. I try and have
Hmm,
compassion for it because,
really?
well, if you think about it, if you try and sort of see it from their point of view, it's almost like you're being insulting to their life decision, and like you are sort of suggesting that you don't like children. And obviously none of that is true. But I think
Well,
it's
that's
just
weird.
so,
That's like if you're not gay, saying that you're
oh no, 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 no.
no, no, no. But
No.
let's say you're not gay, so that means you're insulting to somebody who's gay, or you're straight. So that's
No.
absurd, though. The idea that
Yeah.
you don't make a choice. I think it's terrible to have kids if you don't want them. That
Oh gosh, now that, yeah, that is
right?
a problem. That is a
I
problem.
desperately wanted them, and so
Yeah.
I have them, and I had a whole lifetime before them.
And
But
I
God,
never
oh, to
did.
be stuck with them if I didn't want them.
Yeah, I never did, and I thought that was the right thing to do for me. And I think it
Yes,
would have been terrible if I would have had them and didn't want them,
because it's so
So,
much work. You better be
but
up for it.
I get it. I get why people kind of don't understand it, but it would just be nice if people, I don't really care what anybody thinks, but yeah, I just don't. It's like,
You don't want to offend people and hurt them.
no, of
But if
course
people don't
not.
like you because it's their own stuff, you just can't mess with that. That's
You
nothing.
can't. And I've stopped saying that actually. I've stopped saying I love children, but and I do.
Right.
I'm a great auntie. You know that kind of lunatic adult at a big wedding that is just dancing with all the kids, crawling around on the floor, having a great time, and all the parents are really grateful because they can have like
Yeah,
a bit of a
that's
break.
you.
Yeah, yeah.
You
I
really
think,
like kids. You
yeah,
do
I think
really.
they're great. Like if I wasn't doing this, I'd be a teacher.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'd love it.
I think this is not uncommon. What made you to realize that you didn't want kids when you love kids?
I don't know. I just didn't want to be a parent.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's really respectable
Hmm.
to know what you want. I knew
Yeah,
I wanted them. So for me, I had to be clear, this is what I want. I don't have a very strong family. My father passed and I don't have a relationship with my mother. So for me, I'm building a family. I wanted a family that I never had growing up. So this
fair.
is
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
right. I think it's good if you know yourself and then you can be at peace with other people.
Yeah. When I was 6, I decided, and then kind of grew up and society and culture and expectations. Not my parents. My parents are great. They say do what you want. We don't care. Uh,
Yeah.
you kind of get to your 20s and your 30s and you're like, oh, now I've got to decide. And it's the most kind of difficult thing. So for people to say you're selfish or call you, you know, irresponsible or whatever, I just brush it off because I spent a lot of time thinking about it, really kind of thinking about it. And I thought, that is not for me. Actually, I made the decision in LA at Adobe Max with lots of creatives and rang my husband, and it must have been 4 in the morning here. And I just shouted down the phone, I don't want kids and it's going to be okay.
That he didn't want kids either, obviously.
He never told me, but when I got to talk to him when he was more awake, he said, well, I kind of didn't really want them either. And I was like, well, why didn't you tell me? It would have made the decision a lot easier. And he went, because essentially, we would have been great parents. We would have
Hmm.
been great if we had done it. We would have been fine if we hadn't. I mean, he's very pragmatic like that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And he just said ultimately it was my decision. So, because I
How
had to
long how
go,
long have you been married?
we've been married. Oh God, you put me on the spot. We've been married. Oh, sugar. 15 years, maybe. Oh God, I'm gonna get this wrong. I'm very laid back about it. But we've been together 20 years. He's my bestie.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's
Love at first sight.
everybody has something and not something else, you know?
Exactly. Every decision you make, you give up something, but you gain something else. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And it constantly is evolving throughout life. So
Exactly.
to wrap this up, we can talk a little bit about what are some of the things that you really want to happen for yourself or that you're working on actively that mean a lot to you.
Personally,
Hmm.
a very healthy body, very strong body. I'm going to be doing a lot of that. I'm not going to neglect myself ever again. I've worked very hard for 20 years. I've probably sat at my desk for too long, probably resulting in the injury I have. So that is a major priority because I never want to go through this pain ever again. And from that, everything falls into place. It's prioritizing family and making sure that I go to that destination that I've always wanted to go to, and planning in amazing trips.
Which is
Uh,
where?
I really want to go to
Yeah.
South America
Mm. Okay.
and just travel around there. And I really want to do more of Europe. I mean, we've got so much on our doorstep. It's
Yes, you do.
unbelievable,
Yeah.
really. Like I want to go to Sardinia and Iceland. Iceland, I want to go to Iceland. But then there's also a part of me that's like, oh God, everywhere is like so over touristy and nobody wants tourists anymore. I'm like, oh, is it responsible to travel? Work-wise, I just want to really have fun, not take it seriously and just get out there and go to as many events because I haven't been able to get out there. I'm so excited to take my cute little wireless microphones out and my little recording kit and go around doing lots of video content and meeting people. And I'm just going to have
Yeah.
an I'm going to have an insane grin on my face everywhere I go because I will just be so grateful for every single moment that I can be out there doing things without, constantly thinking about pain or how long have I got before the sand runs out in my hourglass and I have to retreat home
Oh,
and
wow.
rest.
Wow, it sounds
Yeah.
like you've been given a gift. It's all about the energy we bring to things. And sometimes you can't help but have low energy. And sometimes
Mm.
it's like the tide, it goes in and out. But it's a
Yes.
wonderful gift that you have this new kind of love of life, a
Mm.
new, that's
But it,
awesome.
but isn't it human nature that we'll just sort of forget what we went through and we'll just go back to old habits? That's the ticker. That's the thing I have to
Yeah.
make sure doesn't happen when I'm back out there fully.
I
And
don't think it completely does. Sometimes it takes a while for little things to sink in and become part of the fabric of your life. I just took this trip to New Zealand. I was going through a lot of emotions during the trip, and I learned about a new part of the world, and I can feel pieces of that entering kind of who I am. Sometimes it takes time to percolate, and I don't think you'll ever be who you were before this. It's changed
I
you.
absolutely.
It
And
was
it'd be a
so lovely to meet you. Next
thank
time I'm
you.
over in your neighborhood, so to speak, I'll look you up and we'll have a creative walk.
Thank you for this. It's been lovely chatting you.
You've been listening to Actual People. This show is written, directed, and executive produced by me, your host, Chauncey Zalkin. Show sound designed by Eric Aaron. Click on the link below to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. And don't forget to leave a review. I'll be sharing my favorites. You can find our socials and all links to deeper dives into these topics at chaunceyzalkin.com and on my Substack at chaunceyzalkin.substack.com. Actual People is available wherever you get your podcasts.